Revealed, a homeless girl's heartwarming request transforms a millionaire's life forever. On a bright, bustling Friday afternoon in downtown Chicago, where skyscrapers kissed the sky and life danced in every corner, 12-year-old Lily crouched in the shadow of the towering giants. The world around her thrived with activity. Laughter floated from cafes filled with warmth and light. Yet, in the hidden spaces behind the alleyways, Lily stitched together bits of recycled beads and strings, crafting colorful bracelets with the hope of trading them for a few coins. Each piece was a spark of joy, a small victory in a life colored by struggle. "Excuse me, sir," Lily's small voice quivered as a figure passed by. It was Jack, a reclusive millionaire, weathered and worn by the relentless demands of his empire. His eyes were hollow, buried beneath the weight of ambition that had shut him away from laughter, love, and humanity. She reached out, her small hand trembling, showcasing her bright creations. "Can you help me? Just a little, please." His heart tightened at her innocence. Memories of family dinners flooded back, smiling faces, shared meals, laughter echoing around the table. Jack's world felt far away, a distant memory drowning in profit margins. "Just a little change," she repeated, her hopeful gaze capturing his attention. At that moment, something shifted in Jack. The walls he'd built around himself began to crack. He rummaged in his pockets, finally pulling out a few crumpled bills, but what he offered was more than just money. It was a hand stretched toward connection. "Here, take this," he started, but as he stood before her, he felt the skepticism of those passing by. A millionaire helping a girl on the streets, what would they say? Their judgments gripped him, but the little girl's pleading eyes pulled harder. "Thank you, sir." Lily's face lit up. But for Jack, warmth turned to confusion. The barriers of wealth wrapped too tight around his heart and mind. Lily had ignited something long buried, yet he felt doubt sink in as whispered judgments swirled in the air. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and Jack, now entangled in Lily's world, sought to lend a hand. He organized community events to uplift those like her. Yet, as he approached the community, he was met with skepticism. His golden hand of assistance felt like lead to their hearts, heavy and mistrusted. During one of these pivotal events, Lily took the stage, her courage igniting the crowd. "I once thought home was a place," she began. Tears glistened in her eyes as she recounted the hunger, the loss, and the simple dream of family dinners. The listeners moved, but doubt hung thick. Could a rich man really help her? At that moment, Jack felt the urgency of change grip him. It was their fragile connection that could transform both their lives. In a world divided by wealth, he stood beside Lily as she embodied hope against all odds. Would the crowd rally to their side, or would fear keep them apart? As silence filled the air, the gravitational pull of their reality clashed with dreams of something brighter. All eyes were on them, and in that moment, the weight of possibility rested in their fragile hands. What would unfold next hung precariously, leaving hearts racing as they waited for a sign that justice and hope could truly unite them. Lily's heart raced as she searched the faces in the crowd. Some gazed at her with concern, while others wore expressions of skepticism, arms crossed tightly as if to shield themselves from the truth she was sharing. Jack stood beside her, feeling the enormity of the moment pressing down. He knew how much was at stake, not just for them, but for every person sitting there, hungry for change but unsure of how to reach for it. Taking a deep breath, Lily's voice broke through the silence. "When you feel lost, you have to find the light. It doesn't always come from where you expect." The words poured out of her, infused with a sincerity that seemed to crack the still air. "I may not have a house, but I have hope." Jack looked at her, a mix of awe and a determination within him he didn't know he possessed. Maybe they could be the force that rippled through this community, a spark igniting a brighter future. The audience began to lean in, encouraged by her vulnerability. They shifted, whispering among themselves, considering the message she brought. Together, we can make a place that feels like home for everyone, Lily continued, her confidence rising with each word. It starts with us with connection. Slowly, hands began to rise in the audience. Some clapped hesitantly, while others nodded in agreement. Lily's smile grew brighter, the warmth of acceptance was washing over her. Jack's heart swelled with pride, seeing how Lily's words transformed doubt into possibility. Then, from the back of the crowd, an older woman stood up, her voice cracking. I've lost so much, but what you say it gives me hope. I want to help too. With that, others began to join in, sharing their own struggles and strengths. Stories flowed, voices harmonized into one potent chorus of community, rising over their shared pain. Jack realized he was no longer an outsider peering into a fractured world but part of a greater whole, bound by the desire for change. As more voices joined, he took a step forward. And I'm here too, he declared, his own voice trembling with emotion. I want to just lend assistance. I'll stand by you. Let us build something real together, something lasting. Cheers erupted from the crowd. It felt like each hopeful heart merged with another, a tapestry of resilience woven right before his eyes. Jack could almost see the light of opportunity shimmering against the backdrop of their struggles. But as the excitement grew, so did Jack's worries. Doubts infiltrated his mind. Would this enthusiasm hold? Would they find a way to keep the momentum alive when the weekend ended and the harsh realities of life crept back in? He could feel the weight of their expectations, the responsibility pressing against him like the flood of the Chicago River after heavy rains. Lily sensed the flicker of fear hidden behind Jack's enthusiasm and grasped his hand. We can do this together, right? The connection sparked a burst of resolve within him. Yes, together. As they shared a determined gaze, the murmurs of the crowd faded, and it was just the two of them, standing at the precipice of something much bigger than either could imagine. But deep down, Jack asked himself, what would happen when the sun set on this hopeful moment? Would fear regain its grip, or could they build a foundation strong enough to withstand it? Lily and Jack faced the horizon, still uncertain, yet hopeful that the journey they were beginning might be enough to turn the tides of their lives and the lives around them. As they stepped off the stage, one thought flooded Jack's mind, one lingering question intertwined with his determination: what would be the first step they would take together? The crowd began to disperse, but Jack and Lily stood rooted in their spot, still wrapped in the afterglow of their words. The air felt electric, charged with the possibilities that lay ahead. Jack gazed around, noticing familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and even those he had seen in passing but never truly knew. The auditorium, once just a room filled with people, had transformed into something sacred, a birthplace of newfound hope. A young man approached them, his hands stuffed deep in his pockets. You really meant what you said up there? He asked, a slight tremble in his voice. When Jack saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, he felt a surge of empathy for this young man, burdened by the weight of his own struggles. Absolutely, Jack replied, his voice steady. We can't just talk about change, we need to act. You're not alone in this. We're all in it together. The young man looked down at the floor, possibly contemplating the enormity of it all. But what can we do? I can barely afford my own rent, he murmured. Before Jack could answer, Lily stepped in. You don't have to have money to contribute. Your voice, your ideas, everyone has something unique to offer. Her words hung in the air, and just like that, the young man's posture shifted. Jack watched as a spark ignited in his eyes. I can organize a community cleanup. Get people on board. We can start small, right? Absolutely, Jack replied, his heart racing with excitement. That's the spirit. And we can expand from there. As others drifted back to them, inspired by the young man's passion, Jack felt the floodgate of ideas opening. A mother of 3 stepped up, her face etched with resolve. We can host a block party to spread awareness. People will come together over food, music, find common ground. Yes. Lily beamed, her enthusiasm contagious. Let us make it happen. The energy surged through the small group, their collective thoughts intertwining like threads in a tapestry. Each person began to voice their ideas, sowing seeds of connection and cooperation. Jack watched in awe as Lily led the way, encouraging each suggestion and weaving them into a plan. Hope now hung thick in the room as they brainstormed their first steps together. Yet, with every ounce of excitement that built, Jack felt the shadows of his earlier doubt creeping back. Could this really turn into something meaningful, or would it fizzle out like so many attempts before? The fear curled in his stomach, twisting his insides. Jack. Lily caught his eye, her brow furrowed with concern. What's wrong? He took a deep breath, sharing his worry. What if all this just goes away? People go back to their lives, and this moment fades. Lily squeezed his hand tighter, grounding him with her presence. Moments fade, but the connections we make don't have to. This right here, this is just the beginning. We need to keep our hearts open and keep inviting others in. Jack's heart fluttered at her words. He realized this wasn't just about their individual fears, it was about building something that could withstand the storms of doubt. If they could keep that flame alive, it could illuminate the path for others too. As the small group continued to chatter around them, their voices rising, Jack was suddenly struck by a new thought. Maybe we need a name for our initiative, something that captures what we stand for. The volunteers paused, eyes glinting with possibility. Lily smiled, excitement dancing in her eyes. How about Home Together? It speaks to what we're trying to create. Cheers erupted around her. Home Together, they repeated, a chorus of hope echoing in that small space. Just as Jack began to feel the stars realigning around them, he noticed a figure standing at the back, a tall man in a business suit, arms crossed, eyes narrowed with skepticism. The very image of doubt and resistance. The collective energy shifted, and as the crowd quieted, Jack could feel the tension. When their eyes met, Jack's heart raced. Did this man sense their spark and intend to snuff it out? Together, we can light the way, he thought, but would the flame flicker or blaze? With uncertainty hanging in the air, one question echoed in Jack's mind: how would this figure of authority respond to their rallying cry for change? The tall man stepped forward, breaking the pocket of tension that had settled over the crowd. His presence was imposing, a stark contrast to the hopeful energy bubbling around Jack and Lily. People watched, eyes flickering between him and the eager volunteers, uncertainty etched on their faces. What you all are proposing might feel uplifting, he said, his voice gravelly and firm. But let us not kid ourselves. Change isn't born from plans and rallies, it requires cold hard cash and resources. Without that, this will become just another forgotten idea. A hush fell over the group as his words sliced through the warmth they had built. Jack felt a lump in his throat, doubt threatened to smother the small flame of hope that had ignited just moments ago. Sir, with all due respect, a woman's voice rose, trembling yet clear. It was the mother from earlier, her resolve hardening. What we are doing here might seem small, but it's not about the money. It's about bringing people together, inspiring each other. Money alone can't do that. That seemed to catch the man off guard. His jaw tightened, and for a brief moment, Jack saw something flicker in his eyes, a glimmer of doubt, perhaps. But it quickly vanished. Dreams don't pay the bills, he countered, crossing his arms tightly over his chest. While you plan parties and cleanups, the real issues like homelessness, unemployment, all that wait. Lily stepped forward, pushing back the weight of the moment. And that's why we're here. To start a discussion, to take that first step. We may not have all the answers or the resources, but we will make a difference because we care. The crowd murmured in agreement, but the man seemed unmoved. Jack's heart raced. Was there a way to break through this wall of skepticism? What if, Jack ventured, his voice shaking slightly as he took a chance, we could actually change one person's day, inspire them to change their life. The audience leaned in. The man looked skeptical but intrigued. Jack recalled his encounter with a woman on the way to the meeting sitting on a street corner, wrapped in tattered blankets, holding a sign that read, "Just need a warm meal." Her eyes had shown both hope and defeat, a struggle Jack couldn't forget. What if we make it personal? Jack continued. What if we try to help just one person at first? We could find someone in need, like her, and show what community spirit can do. The crowd nodded, an undercurrent of energy shifting through them again. The tall man studied Jack, his expression unreadable. You really think that's enough? Who knows? Jack replied honestly, feeling the sweat bead on his brow. It could be the spark for something bigger. You'd be surprised how one act of kindness can ripple outwards. Suddenly, from the back of the room, a soft voice cut through the murmur. Can I speak? All eyes turned. A young girl, no older than 14, stood shyly among the crowd, seemingly shy and out of place. Jack's breath caught in his throat as she forged ahead. I've been homeless for a long time. I set up my little camp by the elementary school. It's not a lot. But when I get food, I share it with the others who don't have any. And when I can, I help my friends clean up the park because it's our home too. The silence that followed was thick. It took a moment before Jack found his voice. What do you need? Her eyes sparkled even amidst the sadness that surrounded her. A warm meal and some help to gather clothes for myself and others. It may not seem like much, but it would mean the world. At that moment, Jack understood. The tall man shifted, the tension in his stance loosening just the slightest bit. The young girl's words echoed in Jack's mind. This was the connection they needed. This was the heart of their initiative. If they could help her and spark genuine change one person at a time, perhaps then they could inspire the tall man and everyone else too. With hope bubbling again, Jack felt the energy return in a new way. Let us gather what we can, he said, emboldened. We can find a way to help her and get more people involved. As the crowd erupted into whispers and murmurs of determination, Jack turned to the tall man. Will you help us? He stayed silent for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. Jack's heart pounded, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. Would this man stand by them, or walk away? Behind them, the young girl looked up at Jack with a flicker of hope. As they all waited for an answer, one big question lingered: could this be the start of something bigger, not just for them, but for everyone in the community? The tall man took a deep breath, his gaze shifting over the crowd. The faces in front of him were a tapestry of worry, hope, and a desperate need for change. Jack felt his heart lurch as he studied the man's rigid posture. Would he say yes? All right, the man finally spoke, his gravelly voice breaking the tension like a twig underfoot. What do you need from me? Relief washed over Jack like a fresh breeze. He sensed a shift in the air, a crack in the tall man's armor. We need to gather food and clothes for her and others in need. We can set up a soup kitchen and collect donations. We just need a starting point. The young girl adjusted her dirty hoodie, the weight of the moment pressing on her small frame. It doesn't have to be much. Even just a few warm meals could mean everything, she said, her eyes earnest. The man uncrossed his arms, hesitating. All right. I can help with the resources, but I want to see a plan. If this is going to work, it needs structure. Of course. Lily jumped in, her voice excited. We can have meeting points, designated volunteers. Before she could finish, the crowd's excitement erupted into chatter. The murmurs swelled, the shock of possibility radiating through each person. Jack couldn't help but smile. They were on the cusp of something real. Let us meet tomorrow at the community center, he said, addressing the group. We can brainstorm and start planning. We'll make a list of what we need and tackle this head-on. A small cheer went up, filled with a mosaic of voices. As the crowd began to disperse, Jack felt a tug on his sleeve. It was the young girl. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Jack knelt down, meeting her gaze. "No, thank you for being brave. You've inspired us all." He watched the girl's eyes brighten with determination. Behind her, the tall man stood watching, the tension in his shoulders relaxing slightly. Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite. Maybe, just maybe, they could reach him after all. As the day ended, Jack walked home, the heaviness of responsibility weighing on him. Could they really pull this off? He thought about the tall man and the way he'd shifted when the girl spoke. Not a conversion, but a crack in his skepticism. The air was cooler now, the sun dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in warm hues. Lily walked beside him, a spring in her step. "Did you see that? He actually agreed to help. We're really doing this." Jack nodded, trying to keep his momentum steady. "Yeah, but we have to follow through. It can't just be a one-time thing. We need sustainability." Lily paused, glancing into his eyes. "That means finding more people who care, making sure the message reaches everyone. We'll need volunteers, donations, everything." A rush of ideas flowed through Jack. They could create a network, a chain of kindness that connected strangers and strengthened community bonds. Over the next few days, the group gathered again at the community center. Planning sessions turned into bonding events. Jack watched as people shared stories, ideas, and laughter. But amidst the rising excitement, he couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty. What if things fell apart? What if the tall man retreated back into his world of hard truths? Then, on a chilly Thursday evening, the night of their first community meal, everything came to a head. Just before the doors opened, the grand hall was filled with steam and the aroma of homemade soups mixed with the energy of anticipation. As the crowd gathered, Jack stood at the entrance, his heart racing. Would they show up? Would the community respond? The doors swung open, revealing hungry faces spilling in, and for a fleeting second, he dared to dream, but then, in the very back, he spotted the tall man standing motionless, a storm brewing behind his eyes as he surveyed the scene. Jack's stomach knotted. What was he thinking? This was their moment. Would it collapse like a house of cards, or could they build something enduring? Jack's heart beat hard in his chest. The pivotal struggle was just beginning. Did he have what it takes to convince everyone, especially the tall man, that they could create real change? As he approached, the first soft murmurs of conversation filled the air, mingling with the delicious smell of hope. There was no turning back now. The moment of truth was about to unfold. Jack took a deep breath, drawing strength from the buzzing crowd. As he moved toward the tall man, he felt a mix of determination and doubt. This was a leap into the unknown, and the stakes were high. Would the man step forward, or would he sink back into indifference? "Hey," Jack called, trying to sound casual despite the pounding in his chest. "Thanks for coming out tonight. It means a lot." The tall man's brow furrowed as he regarded Jack with a piercing gaze. "I'm not here to shake hands and share smiles," he replied, his voice low and serious. "I came to see if you're really serious about this." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of the man's scrutiny. "We are. We need people willing to help, to really help. This isn't just a meal for a night. It's a beginning." The tall man crossed his arms but remained silent, watching the growing crowd filter in. Jack turned to catch Lily's eye. She stood by the soup table, smiling as she handed out bowls. Her enthusiasm seemed contagious, drawing more and more people to the warmth of the hall. "There is something special happening here," Lily called out, her laughter ringing like a bell. "But we need everyone's hands on deck." Jack could feel the energy shifting. Everyone was coming together, sharing stories and, most importantly, food. But his gaze couldn't help drifting back to the tall man. What was he waiting for? The man had the power to make things easier. He could ignite this movement or let it fizzle out. "Look," Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady, "if we want to make a real impact, we need you. This isn't just about soup, it's about building something greater. Can't you feel it?" The tall man's expression softened for a moment, but then steeled again. "It's easy to get swept up in the moment. But all of this," he gestured to the hall, filled with laughter and the smell of food, "is it enough? What happens when the meals are gone? What about tomorrow?" Jack thought for a moment, feeling the weight of those questions. "You're right," he said slowly. "It's not just about food. It's about creating a support system. A place where people feel safe and can rebuild." The tall man looked at him, surprise flickering in his eyes. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do," Jack replied, his voice unwavering now. "And I believe you can help us make it happen." Just then, the young girl who had inspired them all stepped forward. Her clothes were still tattered, but her spirit shone bright. "Please," she said, her voice steady, "I came here hoping for more than one meal. I want a chance. Just like everyone else." Her words hung in the air, striking a chord with the crowd. Jack saw the tall man's facade slip further. His rigid stance softened, he appeared human, vulnerable even. "I thought I was just a businessman," the tall man said, surprise in his own voice. I didn't consider this." The hall fell quiet, the murmurs fading as everyone turned to listen. "You could change lives," Jack encouraged. "You can make a difference." With a heavy sigh, the tall man straightened, his jaw setting in resolve. "All right. Let us figure this out together. But I want to hear every detail. If I'm going to commit, I need to know we can sustain this." Jack's heart soared. They were breaking through. If he could keep the momentum going, they could do something extraordinary. "Of course." He grinned, eyes sparkling with renewed purpose. "This is just the beginning." As they began to outline their next steps, Jack noticed the girl smiling, real joy spreading across her face. In that moment, something clicked. They weren't just aiming for food and shelter, they were reaching for hope, dignity, community. But just then, as they huddled together in planning, the doors to the hall suddenly burst open. A chill swept in as a group of loud voices penetrated the atmosphere. Jack turned, confusion knitting his brow. What was happening? Were they ready for whatever came next? Tomorrow promised to bring a new challenge. Would they pull together, face the unexpected, and rise stronger? Jack's stomach churned with awareness that their journey was only just beginning. The chill from the opening doors sent a wave of unease through the hall, cutting through the warmth of the moment. Jack's heart raced as he turned to face the newcomer. A group of rough-looking men entered, their voices loud, cutting through the cheerful murmur of the crowd like a knife. "What's this?" one of them shouted, surveying the scene with narrowed eyes. "A soup kitchen? You think this is gonna fix everything?" His scoff echoed around, drawing attention. The community hadn't prepared for this confrontation. Jack felt tension rise as whispers rippled through the crowd. They had just begun to see the opportunity for real change, and now this, but before fear could take root, the tall man stepped forward, calm yet assertive. "Everyone deserves a chance to eat, to be heard," he declared, his voice carrying weight. Jack watched in disbelief. This was the man who had only moments ago questioned their motives. Had he just taken a step toward standing with them? Yeah. The leader of the group shot back, his dismissive gaze roving over the tall man. "And what happens after you fill their bellies? They just come back for more, right?" The tall man didn't flinch. "It's not just about filling bellies. It's about bringing people together." He looked at Jack, then back at the group. "You can be a part of that too. Make a choice." Jack's heart raced. He could feel the pendulum of emotion swinging. He needed to act. "Listen." Jack called out, his voice firm as he stepped toward the door. "Nobody here wants handouts. We want to rebuild, help each other, and create a community where everyone thrives." The leader of the group stared at Jack, and for a moment, something shifted in his eyes. Jack wasn't sure what he saw. Curiosity, perhaps. "And what do you think that looks like?" "I'm not sure," Jack admitted. "But I know we have to start somewhere. We need your help to figure it out, to find ways that all of us can stand together rather than apart." A murmur ran through the halls. Some of the crowd nodded. Others exchanged glances, their tension giving way to a cautious hope. Jack could see Lily behind the soup table, whispering encouragements to the onlookers. The tall man stepped further into the light, taking a chance. "Let us talk about it. If you're willing to put aside the hostility for a moment, maybe we can find a common ground." The leader hesitated, his crew exchanging whispers, their confidence wobbling. Jack caught the young girl's eye, her bright spirit still shone, but he could feel the weight of uncertainty surrounding them all. "Listen," the leader finally said, "this is a tough world out there. You think you can just change it with a bowl of soup?" Jack felt a spark of determination. "No, but it's a start. It's about respect, understanding. Can we really change anything if we close our hearts to each other? Give us a chance to show you." And there it was, the crossroads of possibilities, the beginning of something bigger. Jack could feel the tension crackle like static electricity. The leader shifted on his feet, glancing at the tall man and then at Jack. "Fine. We'll stick around. But we want to hear the whole plan, and we want to share in whatever you're cooking up." A wave of exhilaration surged through Jack. "Absolutely. We want everyone to have a voice in this." As the men moved deeper into the hall, a hesitant applause began, echoing around the room. Jack could see hope flicker in the crowd, and he felt it too. This could be a turning point, but just as relief began to wash over him, there was a sharp gasp from the back. Jack's heart stumbled as his gaze darted over to see a familiar face, someone he never expected to see again, a haunting memory from a past he thought he'd left behind. How would he confront this sudden twist? Would it unravel everything he'd worked for? The stakes had just risen, and he knew he had to act quickly. The night was only beginning, and so was the battle for redemption. What did this unexpected encounter mean for everyone, and could Jack keep the fragile hope alive? Jack's breath caught in his throat as he recognized the girl standing at the back. Addie. Her presence sent a rush of memories flooding back, the long nights spent searching for her in the alleyways, the hopes he had chased, the despair that had gnawed at his insides. She had been a bright spark in his life, a reminder of everything he was fighting for. But seeing her now, the years had changed her. She looked different, older, worn around the edges. Addie. His voice cracked, barely above a whisper, her wide eyes darted around the room, taking in the unfolding scene. She looked out of place amidst the crowd, the rough men, and the hopeful faces. Jack saw her hesitate, a flicker of fear mingled with recognition on her face. She was no longer just the girl he had known. The innocence of childhood was replaced with a guarded resilience. "Jack," she finally spoke, her voice trembling. It was both a greeting and an unspoken question, wrapped in a web of emotions. That he stepped closer, electric energy pulsing through him. "What are you doing here?" He wanted to reach out, pull her into a warm embrace, hold her close. But he hesitated, uncertain if she would welcome his touch. Addie glanced at the soup table, the gathered crowd, then back at Jack. "I thought maybe." She took a shaky breath. "I thought maybe this time I could get some help." Jack's heart sank. "Help? Of course. But you know you can come to me anytime. We can figure this out together." For a moment, they stood in a silence thick with unspoken words. Across the hall, the tension shifted. The leader of the rough group was watching them, a mixture of suspicion and curiosity flickering in his eyes. The crowd, once buzzing with energy, seemed to hold its breath, but Addie, though hesitant, seemed to find her strength. "I don't just need food, Jack. I don't want to keep relying on someone else." I want a chance to make it on my own. I want to start over. His heart ached. How many times had he wished for a moment like this, for her to find her way back? But the weight of her words hit him hard. She wanted independence. Jack admired that, but he couldn't shake the fear. She had been vulnerable before, and now. Could she really make it? Are you sure? He asked, his voice low, searching her eyes for reassurance. I can help you. We can know. She interrupted, a spark of anger snapping in her voice. I don't want to be a charity case, Jack. The room buzzed again, and the atmosphere shifted sharply. Jack knew Addie was right, this was about more than just soup. It was about dignity and self-worth. The crowd murmured softly, sensing the emotional weight between them. I can help you find a job, he said, grounding his resolve. There are people here who can help you get back on your feet, people who believe in you. Addie studied him, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. But do you believe in me, Jack? Yes. I always have, he insisted, his voice gaining strength. You're capable of so much. Don't let fear hold you back. A flicker of possibility danced on her brow. He could almost see the gears turning in her head. The chaos of the crowd, the tension with the rough men, it all faded into a backdrop, leaving only them in focus. Addie stepped forward. Then maybe I'll give it a try. Relief flooded over Jack, but beneath it lurked the lingering worry. Would she be okay? Would this truly be the fresh start she was seeking? Suddenly, a voice interrupted the moment. The leader of the rough group, leaning against the wall, raised an eyebrow. Looks like you've got quite the story, girl. But how do we know you won't just run back to what you know? At that exact moment, Jack's pulse quickened again. He realized everything was at stake, the future not just for Addie, but for the whole community. A simple moment had rejoined their paths in a way that could change everything. But what if, he thought, feeling a new plan solidifying in his mind, a way to bring everyone together? The crowd was watching, the tension building again as he made his decision. Jack turned to face the group and, with Addie by his side, took a deep breath. What they were about to suggest could rewrite the rules for all of them, not just for tonight, but for the days to come. Would they unite in a shared vision, or would their divisions tear them apart once more? The moment hung in the air, and Jack knew the next steps were all or nothing. Jack felt every heartbeat echo in his ears as he stood before the crowd, Addie's presence like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. He needed to speak, needed his next words to hold meaning, to transform the air of uncertainty that surrounded them all. The leader's challenge still hung in the air, a question waiting for an answer, and Jack understood it was now or never. The tension was palpable, drawing everyone's focus. Listen, he began, his voice firm yet vulnerable, you all know what it's like to feel trapped. To feel like there's no way out. He glanced around the room, eyes locking with the people who had gathered, faces etched with hope and weariness. We've had our struggles, yes, but we've also had moments of triumph. If we stand together, we can create something new, something better. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some nodded, others looked skeptical. Addie wants to start over. She's not looking for handouts, she wants to build her own future. And I believe that if she can take that step, so can the rest of us. We have skills, we have voices, and most importantly, we have each other. He turned to Addie, who stood there, eyes wide but steady. You're here, Addie. You're willing to take that risk. You have so much strength in you. At that moment, Jack noticed a glimmer flicker in her eyes, a small spark of hope. It was infectious. He could almost feel the crowd responding, a wave of solidarity beginning to form. What about a community workshop? He continued, fueled by a sudden surge of inspiration. Let us set up a space where we can come together, share skills, and help one another. We can teach each other trades, offer resources. There are people in this room who can build, who can cook, who can teach. We can turn this place into a hub of opportunity. Gasps of surprise and tentative excitement swept across the gathering. He could see some of the rough men exchange glances, a reluctant interest creeping into their hardened expressions. We can sell our creations, find jobs, help one another in ways that make us all stronger, he pressed, raising his voice to carry over the crowd. Instead of divisions, let us celebrate our strengths. Let us lift each other up. He felt Addie's hand slip into his, a comforting warmth. That simple gesture grounded him, reminding him they were in this together. What do you say? Jack called out to the crowd, heart pounding, pushing through the anxious storm within him. One man stepped forward, his face rugged but earnest. You really think we can make it work? Jack nodded, a flicker of confidence ignited inside him. If we stand together, anything is possible. This is bigger than all of us. It's about our future. Addie's grip tightened. He sensed her growing resolve, a blossoming belief that they could indeed change their fate. Voices began to rise in the crowd, tentative at first but gaining strength. Yes. Joy and determination intermingled in the air, and Jack caught glances filled with promise. They really might be able to unite despite their past struggles, to forge ahead into something brighter. Then the leader of the rough group stepped forward, arms crossed but his expression softening. All right, I'm in. A ripple of approval spread through the crowd as more joined him. Jack felt his heart swell. Could this truly be the turning point they all needed? He exchanged a look with Addie, a silent promise passing between them, but just as the energy reached a peak, a voice broke through again, sharp and cold. What if it all goes wrong? A woman's voice, laced with doubt, sliced through the air like a knife. The crowd stretched silent once more, uncertainty swirling back in. Jack's stomach twisted, the woman's question held weight. What if they failed? Addie squeezed his hand tighter, her expression resolute. We'll never know if we don't try. The atmosphere hung thick with a palpable tension. Would they embrace this new vision or shrink back into their old habits of fear? Jack's pulse raced. He knew the moment demanded more than words. It demanded bravery. In this together, we can rise, he asserted. His heart echoing the challenge that lay ahead. But would they find the strength to move forward, or let doubt tear them apart once again? The answer hung in the air, drawing the moment long and uncertain as hope and fear clashed in a world waiting for change. As the silence stretched, Jack felt the weight of every pair of eyes upon him. He could sense the trepidation, the skepticism. He understood that the road they faced would not be easy. But he also felt a flicker of undeniable hope glowing inside him. Together, we can create something new, he implored, his voice resonating through the hall. We can build a community where everyone, including you, feels valued. This is our chance to rewrite the story. Then, as if on cue, Addie pulled away from Jack and stepped forward. Her presence commanded attention. I didn't always believe in myself, she spoke with a quiver in her voice, but it steadied as she continued. I spent years feeling lost. But standing here, I see that help doesn't just come from charity, it comes from empowerment. Each one of us has untapped potential. Look around, what can't we achieve if we work together? The room began to murmur as the echoes of her words rippled through the crowd. Faces that had once been skeptical softened, and curiosity began to bloom like wildflowers in spring. What if we set up a community workshop, like Jack suggested? Addie pressed, her confidence filling the space. We could teach each other skills: cooking, plumbing, art, anything. It doesn't matter where we come from. What matters is where we're headed. At that moment, Jack saw a man in the back look up, his eyes sparked with realization. And maybe I could teach carpentry. He chimed in, a hint of excitement creeping into his tone. Another voice joined, I know how to cook. I can show people how to make nutritious meals. Then, slowly, others followed suit. I could help with job applications, came a voice from the front. I can offer counseling. The crowd grew animated, buzzing with possibility. Jack turned to Addie, their eyes locking with the understanding that they were on the cusp of something transformative. the tall man who had begun as a skeptic, once a shadow looming just beyond the edge of their gathering, now stepped forward. "All right, let us make this plan solid." His voice rang with authority, yet warmth echoed in his tone as he addressed the crowd. "I'll provide resources to help jumpstart Home Together. If we're guiding and supporting our members, I'll back it." Cheers erupted as Jack felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him, clad in disbelief and excitement. They were not just voices trying to be heard, they were a movement ready to rise. A woman with fierce determination stepped forward, her hands raised. "But remember, we need each other. We'll have bumps along the way, it won't always be easy. But letting fear hold us down isn't an option anymore. We need to stay committed." Agreement rippled through the room as Jack felt the energy surge. He looked at Addie, and she smiled back, knowing they had begun something powerful. As plans were drafted, names were exchanged, and roles began to form, the atmosphere felt charged with excitement. Community members crowded around tables, tossing ideas like seeds on fertile ground, a place to gather, share skills, spread warmth. In that moment, something in Jack shifted. A weight lifted from his heart. No longer was he just a man looking to connect, he was part of a beautiful tapestry, a community where no one should feel alone. But just as hope filled the corners of their gathering, a feeling of trepidation echoed next. "What if it all falls apart?" questioned a voice cut with doubt. The question hung heavy in the air, eliciting soft gasps from the crowd. Addie stepped forward again. "It's a gamble," she said, easily finding her footing. "But if we never try, we'll never know. I choose hope. I choose unity. I choose to build a future where help comes not just in the form of food but through relationships." Her conviction reignited the energy in the room. "Let us fight through the doubt together." Jack raised his voice, powered by the resilience of the community. "Tomorrow holds challenges, but also potential that we've only begun to tap into. It's time to step into a brighter future." Cheers erupted, and the tide of fear began to recede, replaced by a belief that they could weather any storm together. As the gathering began to wind down, one last thing fell on Jack's mind: the sense of belonging. This was about being together. They weren't merely changing lives, they were building a foundation, one of hope, connection, and strength. He looked around, filled with gratitude for everyone present, each face another piece of what would become a much greater whole. Perhaps this was the moment that would lead to something immense, and the stories would carry forward, woven into every bracelet, every meal shared, every bond formed. As the night faded into laughter and chatter, Jack turned to Addie and asked, "What's next?" A bright smile spread across her face. "We keep moving forward. Together." And in that powerful moment of unity, they embraced the dawn of a new beginning, a shared dream that transformed their lives and so many others. As Jack stepped outside into the cool night air, he finally let the warmth of hope wrap around him completely. Emerging from their struggles, Jack recognized one undeniable truth: love and connection had the power to change everything. If you felt inspired by this story and want to keep seeing incredible transformations like this, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these true stories alive. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message. Let us spread the word and ignite change, one story at a time.